meet in an hour of change, in an age of both knowledge and ignorance. The greater our knowledge increases, the greater our ignorance unfolds.
As John Kennedy stated clearly about that famous speech for the space exploration, it means that we as human beings are very daring, but we know very little compared with the reality around our Earth, Moon, solar system, galaxy, universe, and in all cosmos, and sometimes the ignorance encapsulates some of us within vicious circles. Our awakened genes of intellectualism still suffer in the complex of our attempts to free ourselves from the dogmas, and the other side to embrace the exponential development of our scientific knowledge. Those dogmas, which are sold to us from certain political clans with their agendas to keep us in the darkness of ignorance and divide us through hate. Science inspires us always to be imaginative, curious, quick learners, excellent researchers and better moral human beings, and everybody of us to contribute in the emancipation of our human society on our planet Earth, with the unique purpose that the scientific achievements to be serving the improvement of standard of life of all of our humanity on this Earth. When everybody of our society of this Earth participates for the great purpose of improving the standard of life for everybody, in order to be enjoyed life despite being rich or poor, then science have taken the right direction to serve everybody on our Earth despite of their nationality, race, country, creed. It means that science, art, music, sport, etc. of our human activities, it makes us to be all brothers and sisters on this Earth, to respect each other and to contribute to science or at least to contribute humanely to our human life increasing its standards. This means that, we as human beings of this Earth determine our attitudes and actions to embrace the scientific knowledge and to use that only for good, and it is not for the science to determine our attitudes and actions, that some of us use the science to produce atomic weapons and even threaten others with the use of such weapons of mass destruction. But since the Second World War, when science was used to exterminate others and to ensure the priority or leadership of a clan or creed through brutal force even to the length of using the nuclear weapons, this was the time that it was opened a Pandora's box, and in today's time we live with each other through the language of using atomic weapons. These are our faults of human race of this Earth that we should understand to avoid and overcome with success of always respecting each other, despite our intellectual and physical abilities. This is a simple axiom or proverb, that not everybody should be a genius or not everybody should become a president, but everybody has inside them an element of genius or president when it comes to their personal decisions of everyday life, which always should be taken to serve at best our best moral, spiritual, and mindful values of our human race, in order to improve our standard of life for everybody. These episodes regarding the presence of extraterrestrials on the moon and all around us, it should not be kept hidden from the public's attention, because only then we understand our real position on our Earth. Also, we should go to the moon and further to other planets, in accordance with the universal principles of peace and love, otherwise we will lose ourselves in the unknown labyrinths of the future. But, going to space without the unity of our human race on this Earth, it is a dangerous precedent to create more upheaval on our existing moral and intellectual dilemmas, and this is the reason that John Kennedy stated that, the USA needs to be the leader of going to the moon and further to space. But, the deviations of certain clans to ensure their advantage at the expense of others on our Earth, it is always a danger like the sword of Damocles on the fate of our humanity on this Earth. Due to such lessons of our past history, we should always be part of the United Nations in every effort to go to space and to negotiate with other civilizations around us. There is no principal divergence regarding the primary need to express our concerns in the United Nations regarding such supreme guiding principles, where all of our nations are represented by their governments in the United Nations, with their social, economical, and political conscience to negotiate with each others for the improvement of life for everybody in our Earth. It is great achievement of our humanity on our Earth to establish visions and formulate exact plans of the future to go to the moon and even build a base, which we can use for the mining of the minerals of the moon, or even using it as a trampoline to go further to planet Mars. But, these great visions and plans cannot be safe and to serve us much to improve our standard of life on our Earth, if we do not establish communication with other civilizations, before building our base on the moon. It is even ridiculous when certain well-known scientists even of famous universities of different parts of our world ignore the existence of other civilizations all around us, and they do this under their pretexts that their achieved scientific research does not allow them to understand how other civilizations visit us even to our Earth. Furthermore, it has become a joke that we should bury our head in the sand, because in many serious scientific authorities, or even civil or military important organizations, even it is banned strictly any private or public discussions about extraterrestrials. Furthermore, other research scientific authorities for the extraterrestrial life are trying to spread a common smokescreen, in order to deviate the attention of our human society with the help of powerful media organizations that they have great achievements in their work with proving that the microbial life is possible in other planets, and they look for it in the deep space, and they purposely forget to study the presence of other civilizations all around us. When we are delivering proper information for the presence of extraterrestrials on the moon, this is not for private financial profit, but it is done for the improvement of our understanding, and particularly of the understanding and preparation of the young generations to adjust better themselves with modern proper concepts of life, in order not to repeat the stupidity of our past history on our Earth. The young generations of our Earth should know that the existence of other civilizations on the moon and all around us, it serves better understanding of the universal principles that life was created to serve life and not to destroy it, and our human life should be enjoyed with decency, and it should serve to improve the standard of everybody's life. But such important universal principles have implications of planning for our actual economical, social, political life of every human being on our Earth for equal enjoyment of rights and participation, otherwise it will be spontaneous development of human life on our Earth with unpredictable developments and outcomes.
Now from Colombia.
Franklin, we see a long line, a couple of star-like things, and a lot of things swimming in the foreground. Can you describe what you're seeing?
Good job here adjusting the cameras.
Copy that.
You know that description by the crew. This is the tether in the satellite. The satellite with approximately 12 miles of tether still attached to it. Colombia and the satellite now just passing over the west coast of northern Africa. The two spacecraft now 90 nautical miles apart.
As actually, there are tendencies in our world to undermine the globalization theory and practice, and certain even well-established states and countries are trying to diminish the best values of cooperation in every field of human society, common trade markets, and share of profits, and certain well-known states and countries even are running back to dangerous tendencies of nationalism and protectionism with side traces of extremism in the form of fascism or communism. But everybody in our Earth knows that due to such backtrack steps happened the freak economic crises, and the 2 world wars. It is imperative to have proper studies for our human society's sustainment of life with decent levels of economical, social, and political standards through new use of technologies, social security maintenance of all accepted decent standard of life, when the workforce cannot be engaged in proper meaningful paid employment. Otherwise the capitalist economic relations will produce false financial concepts of gig economy like the ghost financial products sold by our biggest banks since 1930s up to recently financial crises, and even it will produce criminality, terrorism, and social unrest, as stated by Bill Clinton in 1994, although it was overused his statement that, "We are all in this together," when it is undoubted hard evidence for the presence of the extraterrestrial civilizations on the moon and all around us. it is of primary vital importance to exist and to be consolidated our human harmony on Earth. It is the duty of different governments, particularly of the government of the USA, Russia, China, EU, and other countries, to intensify their efforts for their better cooperation, coordination, planning of common objectives for the improvement of the scientific achievements, because science does not know borders. In that regard, such governments should be aware of the great contributions of all scientists and all universities all around our Earth to generate better results and to support scientific initiatives of scientists to serve the improvement of the standard of life for everybody on our Earth. So, it is of great importance and significance for the international cooperation, if the payloads of the International Space Station are delivered not with American, but with Russian flying vehicles, as it is significant if the best alloys of metals and non-metals are not American or Russian, but are created in the laboratories of India, China, or UK, but always under the close leadership of the American scientists, who have a great experience in the cooperating international working teams. This means that the USA still delivers its leadership role, but with the sharing of globalist obligations, and not with the old and out-of-fashion protectionism policies, which never have achieved the best results as it is proved in the last 27 years, since the end of the Cold War. Certain political clans, who try to undermine the American scientific leadership, or who try to undermine the important role of scientific contribution of China, Russia, EU, and other countries, even if they are big or small, such attempts are against the world peace and status quo balance of détente, which was promised by the Western powers at the end of the Cold War, including the reduction and control of nuclear weapons. You watch calmly and observe the intense traffic of movements of the flying vehicles of extraterrestrials.
Okay, the Mir space station is the small flashing light in the center, about an inch from the left-hand side of the screen. It's slowly
Hello, on my camera.
It is slowly moving closer to the left-hand side and is has a very light flashing to it.
We think.
Which it is shown clearly in this episode about their very often movements of their small and big flying vehicles. Then, you will realize that, their flying vehicles are using their bases on the moon as a traffic junction of their movements throughout all our solar system, and possibly they also use our coordinates in our Earth as a traffic junction in our galaxy, etc. Also, you notice the observations and reconnaissance of the extraterrestrial flying vehicles around the previous International Space Station Mir, due to frequent technical problems of such a space station. This was 23 to 40 years ago, at the beginning of use of the technology in space, when the extraterrestrials had realized the high risk that us can cause in space through pollution or atomic weapons. This created for our humanity the necessity for the inventions of new technologies, in order to reduce pollution not only in space, but also on our Earth. But, such very developed extraterrestrial civilizations, which have in their continual use such complex technologies, and such very capable aeronautical flying vehicles, it makes common sense that, they need very powerful antennas for communication and observation of their intense traffic of their flying vehicles, and even for the observation and reconnaissance of all other flying vehicles of other civilizations, which use the space, because the space is not a private property, as it is our narrow meaning of it, due to our concept of capital. Denying the existence of such powerful antennas and other artificial structures, which are constructed and built by the extraterrestrial civilizations on the moon, it is like telling blatant lies to our society on Earth, and it takes dangerous meanings about attempts to bring back old colonial dreams at the expense of others, with causing proxy wars, which cause suffering and loss of life of common folks in different parts of Earth. Please watch calmly and reflect about all the intense movements of the flying vehicles of extraterrestrials, and you would notice their concerns for the space station Mir during 1995, which was 23 years ago, and then you can think that, are we surrounded with extraterrestrials or not? Finding our proper role of our civilization in the galactic, intergalactic, and even cosmic communities of extraterrestrial civilizations, it cannot be ensured with our known theories and practice of setting our dominance through the threatening language of atomic weapons. As it has proved our history of human society on our Earth, such theories and practice of finding the dominance through brutal force and even escalation to nuclear force, it brings the doomsday scenarios or apocalypse. It has even been described in the Mahabharata book written in the ancient Sanskrit language about 400 years BC. Our ancestors clearly were witnesses of the use of atomic weapons deposed by warmongers, which came from space of our very ancient past, about 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. Even the Second World War with the nuclear weapons used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, proved that even small capacity of nuclear weapons, it causes mass annihilation of millions of people, who are innocent and love life. So, our previous history has proved to all of us the lessons that, we should communicate and negotiate with all other humanoids around us, if we want to be respected by extraterrestrial civilizations, but above all the respect stars at our home Earth. When extraterrestrial civilizations are thousands of years ahead of us, and even millions of years ahead of us, we do not want to become the colony of ants in the wider solar system, galaxy, universe, and further cosmos. There is no other way except the crazy concept that the nuclear weapons are a deterrent. Since during the Second World War, when the scientific nuclear research was in the wrong hands of the Nazis, our post-war political powers embraced the nuclear energy not only for the improvement of life of our humanity on our Earth, but also for the production of nuclear weapons, which were developed in the hateful scenarios of the Cold War, as Game of Thrones, which only proved our only gene of probable madness, as among our good genes of our previous mentalities and actions. So, our hopes are great for better future of all of us on our Earth, only if we do not forget.
Atlantis for TCS. Go ahead, Story.
We see a good cal on TCS-2. Can you do an acquire command and then update the seed range?
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Шаттл находится почти под вами. Дальность 600 футов. И я думаю, вы его не увидите, потому что он для вас по третьей плоскости.
Пока не видим.